The reality is, if you were early to the internet, if you were the one that said, hey, I'm going to get an email and I'm going to build a website in 1998, and it comes around to 2002, people are searching Google and your site's been around for 4 years and you're the first one popping up and people aren't using the yellow pages anymore. They're searching Google to find your business. That's a competitive advantage. And that's where we are right now. Right now it's 1999 internet, but we're with AI. You know how to plumb, you know how to run a small business, whatever it is. That expertise with AI is your unfair advantage.
Expert advice, practical tips, real-life stories. Have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor.
I want a treaty with AI. I want to have a formalized treaty that it will adhere to.
What do you mean?
I mean, I want AI to not kill me or anybody I love or like. So I'm willing to compromise right now and make sacrifices to sign a treaty. And that way I'll be ahead of everybody because I'm on their, hey, I've got a deal. And they'll be like, it'll be like Vladimir Putin. He doesn't care what he signs. AI will take you out.
If you really want to freak out, there's a good Joe Rogan episode where he interviews two guys that have I think it's a nonprofit for AI safety. And they're just calling like red flag, red flag, red flag. For example, over 30% of all of the staff inside of OpenAI, Anthropic, X, their Grok, AI, XAI,
Gemini, yeah,
and Google's AI, yes, all of them are Chinese nationals.
Okay, what do you mean people inside them? You mean users or?
Mm-hmm. No, okay. Employees, the developers of the actual AI itself.
And is this a fact or is this, that's what they said to Joe Rogan, huh?
Yeah, no, this is fact. And it's well documented because they have to have, look at that, Martin. Is AI calling us?
Yeah. That's
they're listening
a Chinese guy.
Well, it's documented because they all have to have work visas.
Yeah.
So it's like public information. So then they talk about how like the way the Chinese government operates and being able to essentially hold their families back in China hostage if they don't
read about
respond to a message or whatever like that. And this came about, they talk about it an instance where, I don't know, a few years ago, power went out in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley and like cell phone towers were down and all sorts of stuff. And it was down for like 18 hours or I don't know.
Wow.
And all of these Chinese nationals that were here working on work visas were freaking out because they had to do check-ins and they weren't able to do check-ins back with the Chinese government. And then they were worried about their families. And anyways, it's a freaky episode. It's sobering. It kind of gives you to the reality of it. And then also to understand, there's some new models coming out. We're recording this on May 29th. I don't know when it goes live, but as of today, there are Claude 4 has come out and it has already tried blackmailing people. Not people as in you and I, Martin, but internal testing teams where they give it different scenarios and all this stuff. And if it feels like you're doing something nefarious, it'll start to blackmail you. And like withhold, it'd say that it's going to send information about this to so-and-so. And, so what's
do you have to pay a ransom or something or blackmail?
I have no idea. I just know that it's like, it's interesting. It's thinking on its own. And there's another one, OpenAI O3 Mini High is the model for ChatGPT that was instructed by its, internally instructors to shut itself off or something like that, and it wouldn't.
Man, we're going back to what was, Space Odyssey. Well, I mean, are you aware of that show?
Not Space Odyssey, but there's a lot out there.
No, the original one when I was in high school, Space Odyssey 2001 or something like that. Oh no, Hal was the computer and took
Okay.
over. And they're on, and anyway, it's a whole drama. And anyway, one guy finally fights in and unplugs it, But, oh no,
Well, there's a couple of
2020,
things like that.
dadgummit, I could use AI and find out what that,
There's a movie that you should watch. Is it Eagle Eye? It's with Shia LaBeouf. I think it's Eagle Eye. Where essentially this happens, where there's government-owned AI that controls the streetlights, and it controls all the cameras, and it controls everything. And yeah, it takes over. And then there's another one, iRobot with Will Smith, if you remember that one.
yeah.
That
Well,
one,
no, it
that
was
one's worth watching too.
2001, A Space Odyssey. It was the chimpanzees on a kind of lunar-looking surface with bones pounding the ground, and there's a computer there. And oh no, man, it predated all this stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, it was Hal, and Hal was talking. No, you don't need to unplug me because I can take care of you. Don't do that. And the guy finally does
Yeah.
it. So, but there are two things that have come up kind of recently. Well, I'll say one thing first. I have a client who used chat or had a query for chat to
Mm-hmm.
rank how is my company perceived in my marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people are doing reviews like that. They're looking at Google reviews. Well,
Yeah.
I've done that for a couple of companies and they're not that great. I mean, it'll say, my wife's company, we do a lot with Medicaid billing. And there was
Mm-hmm.
one guy a year or two ago that was an idiot. And anyway, never mind. But anyway, he had to do something. And he posted a review that said something along the lines of, well, they won't even take my Medicaid, because he had to fill out some forms or something. So it came into the review that we don't really know if they take Medicaid. Well, that's 60% of our business. So yeah, we do. Well, where did that come from, right? I don't want people. So it's not a bad idea to go into whichever chat you use and see what the
Mm-hmm.
world thinks about your business and how it compares to other businesses doing similar things, and see what it says. And then
Yeah.
you can tell, I think, pretty well where it got the information. And maybe
Yeah.
you need to go take care of some Google reviews and things like that. Before that, I can see that people will soon be using chat more than, well, maybe not, but at least as much as Google reviews to find out about companies. So
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how we should approach this AI conversation. I've been learning a lot. You have a way of approaching
I have one to start with.
What's your one to start
and it's
with?
this, and we're way out of order, but what the hell is AI? Okay.
Yeah.
Because everything's AI now. I mean, we've got
Mm-hmm.
AI mastered. Well, what do you mean AI? Well, the computer has sensors, and if this happens, then this happens. I go, is that AI? I
Yeah.
don't know. So, I
What
mean,
is
I know
AI?
GPT.
And I think we've done an episode on this a while ago, like maybe even a year ago. But I don't want to get into the technical details of what AI is. I just want to give it an understanding to people of what AI is and how, in terms of how the impact it's going to have. If you're in our audience and you are using AI, I still think this is valuable. If you haven't used AI at all, I think this will be very helpful still. If you are interested in my sources, in my source material, and learning more about this, a few people that I follow that are extremely helpful. John Matzner has been on our podcast before. He's great on Twitter and has a podcast himself that we will link to called Lazy Leverage. And I've actually been in a course for the last 6 weeks that he's teaching, and it's about real applications in business for AI. Like, how are you actually going to use this today? Not, I could create this incredible website with AI. No, how am I going to make sure that my guys in the field are getting the CRM updated so that we know exactly what's happening on our jobs, right? So really great source there. A couple of other ones I'll link to in the show notes that are Twitter accounts. They have weird Twitter handles and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but they're really helpful, and they do demonstration videos and like, here's exactly how you start using this and setting it up. And it's not that hard. Quick ad break to tell you a little bit about OpenPhone. If you're a contractor that has a single cell phone, you're probably inundated with text messages and phone calls, oftentimes that you can't be responsive to or that you can't answer at all. So what's the solution? You can buy another office line with Verizon or AT&T, and you can have an iPhone that is passed around from employee to employee, depending on who's on call. But what if there's a better way? What if there's a way that you can have all your phone calls recorded to go back and listen to later, transcribed with summaries so that you can get a quick glance at what happened during the phone call, and even connect it to your CRM where all your other customer information is? OpenPhone is the perfect solution because it does just that. You're able to add all the users you need to for whoever needs to have access to the lines for your company phone. And then you can also find all of the information you need at a glance with a centralized location for all phone calls and text messages with your customers. Whether it's for marketing, for sales, or for service, OpenPhone is the perfect solution for you and your team. If you're interested, we have an offer down the show notes from OpenPhone. Please click the link down the show notes, or you can see it here on your screen to be able to find more information about OpenPhone. Thanks for listening. Back to the episode. Something that's helpful for me, Martin, today where we are at is like 1998. It's in 1998, and maybe you can help us here, Martin.
Because I
was
remember
7 years old. Because you remember. Where were you at with the internet in 1998 in your business using the internet?
I got an MBA and I went back to school when I was 40, graduated in 95. And I got my first email. Well, the one thing happened is I got a textbook with a CD on it.
Okay.
Wrapped in cellophane. So it's like, whoa, what do I do with this? Well, I had problems and stuff, but I got my first email in 1994. I got an email address to the University of Oklahoma. And if people can remember what screens used to look like when there was a greater than symbol and a C and a colon, and it just blinked at you in either orange or green, and there you go. That was my email. And I remember Control Z meant send. There were no editor, but I could put somebody's address in there. And so we had that. I remember calling a guy one time to try to learn more how we could use it, because it was really arcane and difficult to find anything on any information. You really typed www and you went to archives at a university and had permission to read an article. It's just like nothing was there. But he was telling me about links. I remember he said, well, you got to have a link. And I go, okay. And he goes, from the tone of your voice, I don't think you get it. I said, well, you're right, because I don't know what the hell a link is. Well, we had Netscape, if you remember that, Mark Andreessen. So I got Netscape. And anyway, it was of no practical use into my business. And one other thing, at that time, some 94 to maybe 98 or something like that, everybody was talking internet. But the major debate was, would it be allowed to be used for commercial purposes? And there were Computer World and magazines like that debated all the time. No, this is a government, ARPA or whatever, DARPA, the defense, why it was created. No, we shouldn't do it. And then it began to finally, there was a tidal wave. Gosh, I haven't thought about this stuff for a long time, Khalil. There was a tidal wave of people interested in using the internet. Then one of the ways to make the internet useful is let people pay for stuff, right? So there it was, like, I'm going to put my credit card into the internet. And there were people saying, yeah, I do it all. I don't know when eBay came out. I think it's probably in the thousands, not in the 90s. But all of a sudden, all of those things were major debates, major. And it was a long time. I'm trying to think, probably when did we have our first real business website? Was probably in the 2000s.
Well, and I mean, think about that. Like at that time, you were probably, one, you mentioned the government only usage. And I think it's funny that there's the same parallels with AI today. Obviously, I do think that that AI is a little bit more consequential than the internet in terms of it thinking on its own and that kind of stuff.
I don't think it's
Uh,
more consequential in the sea change. It may be a little more dangerous. But
yeah,
when
that's
we
what I
think
meant. Sorry,
about
a little more
when we
dangerous.
think about what I, I've said it before, but I have to say it again. When I started working, when I got out of college and started working, we did not have copy machines. We didn't have copiers. We had carbon paper, NCR paper, correcting selectric IBM typewriters that could white out stuff. The first major technology disruptor was the fax, because I was running grain elevators and we were buying corn and selling corn by contract. And the question was, hey, if I fax you a signed contract, it's just a fax. Does that count
Yeah,
as a signature? And it wound up being part of contracts that, yes, affects, now we do it on the internet and whatever you
yeah.
DocuSign picture signatures. That look good? Look way better than my real signature. But so I don't know if
Well, I
I
think
cut in, but it was so
no.
disruptive.
Yeah, it is extremely disruptive. I think the reality is, if you were early to the internet, if you were the one that said, "Hey, I'm going to get an email and I'm going to build a website in 1998," and it comes around to 2002, and people are searching Google, and your site's been around for 4 years, and you're the first one popping up, and people aren't using the yellow pages anymore; they're searching Google to find your business. You had a competitive advantage,
Yeah.
not because your website was. Yeah, if we looked at your website from 1998 today, we'd probably laugh, right? But you you were first to market. You were first to really start using it as a competitive advantage, and you were successful because of it. So many businesses. We can think of like the Googles and the Facebooks and Amazon, and yes, those guys won. But on a small business level, the ones who adopted the internet first and were emailing quotes to customers and were receiving payment over the internet, they were able to collect money faster. They were able to have build up Google reviews for 10 years before people were getting Google reviews. Those kinds of things, like that's a competitive advantage. And that's where we are right now. Right now it's
With AI.
1999
Yeah.
internet, but
Yeah.
we're with AI.
Yeah.
And the same exact principle is in place. If you're a small business, you need to treat it with the same respect, because in 4 years, you will have a competitive advantage over the small business down the street who's not using AI, right? The other contractors out there who aren't using it don't have the competitive advantage that you have. And we'll get into some examples in a minute, but one way to think about it, and I have a question for you. Do you think that AI will be a leveler? Everyone becomes a B plus, or do you think it's going to be a kingmaker where certain people become A pluses?
Wow. It's quite a question. I haven't given that any thought. Can I tell you a story though?
Sure. Go ahead.
That's okay. An investor in one of our companies, I could say his name, I won't say it, but um, was a stockbroker from Idaho. And he moved down to run the office of some brokerage firm in Las Vegas. And he got, the first thing he wanted to do was get this company that he just moved into Las Vegas into the yellow pages. And he calls the yellow pages and they closed and they wouldn't reopen and reprint for 4 months. So he goes, I'm going to be down here for 4 months. This was in 94, I think, with no main source advertising, which is yellow pages. So he had heard of the internet. So he starts calling around and some guys were saying, yeah, we can, we could write you a program, and get you internet up. And he goes, okay. And so he learned about buying URL names. So he called whoever, I don't know who it was, but to get the name. And they said, yellowpages.com. That's the name he's looking for. Oh, it's already taken and somebody's got it. When does it expire? Well, it expires in like a month, 3 weeks or a month. And he said, if he doesn't renew it, you can buy it. He hired a guy, he got on the phone, he stayed on the phone that day. The guy never bought it. And so didn't repurchase it. So he bought yellowpages.com. He buys a CD that has like all the plumbers in Los Angeles. He buys a CD that has all the air conditioning, that kind of stuff. He set up a call center in Las Vegas and called those guys and said, we own the site yellowpages.com. People are going to start coming to this. Do you want to be listed first? Because we're going to put everybody in, but He just said, you want to be first? It costs, $900. He built that business up and sold it to AT&T. I don't remember what year, for $34 million.
Wow.
Now he didn't make $15 investment to buy the URL. He didn't make 34 million because he had to do the call center and pay people and do all that.
Sure.
But
He was
anyway,
making money while he was selling the ad space.
yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
that is a story. That's a truth that I actually know the guy. He invested in one of our companies, had a lot of money, still does. Although it doesn't seem like that much money nowadays with NBA contracts, but 34 million is still serious bank in like 2005, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's a kind of thing that if people can recognize the opportunities, and I think maybe that's where you were going with me, is it going to be a king? There are going to be people who recognize things that are more substantial than what I recognize.
Mhm.
I like to be a user. I like to think I'm a user. I am a user. But
Yeah.
another story, just pedestrian as can possibly be, there's a 3 spreadsheet report with 31 tabs on each spreadsheet and maybe 50 to 150 entries on each tab that I have to add up and manipulate for my wife's business every month. I could have written
Yeah.
those spreadsheets with the code, but I neglected to do that. So it got me the numbers I want. Anyway, so I'm doing it. I'm spending 2-3 hours once a month doing that. I thought, So I downloaded the Excel spreadsheet and uploaded it into chat. And I said, add up everything on every workbook, on every tab, on everything at the bottom of every number in column L. And
Yeah.
about 30 seconds, maybe, pop gives me the answer. Okay, that's like nothing, right? I mean, that's like
Oh yeah.
basic stuff. But I hadn't thought of it until I thought of it. And I certainly didn't do it until I did it. I've got one I'm
Mhm.
doing for a client today to see if there's some trends show up in his business, seasonal trends. And those are like, my brain doesn't even, I've got such a low ceiling and I'm bumping my head against
Yeah.
that I think it will make some big time winners, not necessarily Sam Altman and those kind of guys, but
Right.
for people who think of some really useful ideas,
Yeah.
and
Well,
universally useful.
I think the sentiment out there is like, oh, it's either going to take everybody's jobs or it's not going to do it at all. It's going to be just everyone's the same. And I think that's not the case. The ones that, sure, in the long run, the internet has leveled the play. It hasn't leveled the playing field. It's just raised every boat,
Mhm.
right? Like we've had the internet for over 20 years, very well established in our daily lives for 20 years. And it has raised the levels of everybody, right? Everybody can do a Google search, or most people, right? Almost everybody can find a phone number to what they want to look for. It's raised all those tides, but there have been some kings that have come out of it, right? It has been a kingmaker in many sense. There's e-commerce businesses like Shopify, where they were a snowboarding company where they built snowboards, and they said, hey, we want to sell our snowboards online. And so they built a website, and they realized, oh, like other people want to sell things online. And then they developed Shopify. That's a kingmaker. That was a small
I
business
didn't
that
know
turned
that.
into a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar company. Yeah. The same thing will happen with AI. It's not different than, you think about a lot of the softwares that are out there like Builder Trend. It starts with a company that says, we need to systemize some stuff. We need software to be more efficient in our company as a builder. And so they build their own software, and then they realize, wow, we've built something really valuable. We're going to license this. And now Builder Trend is one of the top solutions out there for construction companies. It's the same exact thing will happen with AI. You're a small business owner. This is where the huge opportunity is. You have domain expertise. You know how to plumb. You know how to run a small business. You know how to, lead a crew. You know how to do landscaping. You know how to build pools, whatever it is. That expertise with AI is your unfair advantage. That's how you compete and how you dominate the market, because you're going to be just like the Shopify guys knew how to build. They built their own website, and they struggled through that process, and now they have the biggest e-commerce Shopify platform in the world. the same thing can happen for you, and it doesn't have to happen on that scale. Like, we would all agree that we don't need billions to say that we're successful. I'm fine with a few million to say that I'm successful, right? So if you can just find the little opportunities, then you can become a kingmaker, right? It can be a kingmaker for you. The way that I want to explain that a little bit, because right now there are people who don't have the subject matter expertise of knowing how to run a small business or a construction company. And they're trying to, they live in Silicon Valley, we'll say, and they're trying to say, hey, how can we use AI to improve construction, right? And their ideas are very novel, right? And they're not informed, and they don't know the real pain points. But the reality is, you as a construction business owner are very aware of the real pains. It's impossible to get my guys out in the field to update the CRM. It's impossible for me to create SOPs. It's so hard, right? It takes forever for my guys to adopt software. Whatever the challenge is, the real pain points, I can't find my numbers. My pricing, tracking the pricing on my jobs is a full-time job, right? Whatever that is, you know the real pains, and that's where the opportunity is. And that's where, because you have that expertise and you know those things, you can use AI to develop solutions for that. Whereas that's not what people are thinking about that are just in AI, right? And so when you have AI, it's like you having your own developer, your own copywriter, your own marketer, your own salesperson, your own analyst, your own accountant. You have access to all of these areas of expertise that you try to wear the hat of as a business owner, but we all know that that's not your
The
area of
only
expertise.
thing that I've discovered that cannot be replaced by AI is a really good business coach. You
Yep,
gotta
you're
have a
exactly
business
right.
coach. No, I think
Well,
something that we had actually done, you and I did it because of one of my clients. Our listeners, what you just said, about I can't get my guys to update the CRM. They won't, they won't write SOPs. They won't follow SOPs. How do I get them to follow all those things that you listed? What I really like about that is those are specific things somebody said, oh, I could see. I could get AI to write some SOPs for me. How about so
yeah.
somebody listening to us who's not already doing it could actually start there. But we had a fascinating thing that at your behest I cranked through, and I said, got a guy in another state. He always listens to us, and he knows I bring him up all the time. But anyway, I said he does certain kind of contracting, and you said have AI do his next bid. I said, well, okay, but we'll have to find pricing and payment. No, 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 no. Don't go find what a yard of the concrete or 12-foot 2x12 costs. Don't do that. Tell what the job is. Describe it accurately the same way you would tell the client what you're doing, and say, get me a bid. And it did. I mean, and my client, we looked at it and he's going, well, that's off a little bit on this. We're talking about being 10% off. He said, well, you can't really buy that for that around here. That's, okay. But it's not like it went and found the price of all the parts
Yeah.
without specifying all the parts. Well, I mean, we had to say, structure on, anyway, you had to describe the bid accurately, but it completely did it. And I don't think well, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think we're at the point where I completely trust every bid I get by putting the bid specs in chat and say, give me a bid. Well, I have another client. Oh, it's another client that is often asked to give bids. And we all know, I used to bid sprinklers and I had people say, well, I'll let you bid my yard. And I go, well, I'll let you wash my car. What are you talking about? I'm going to go draw your yard and design all this stuff. And it's a favor to me. No, it doesn't work that way. Well, with AI, you can go crank something out, call it a, loosey-goosey estimate. And they were doing that and they go, hey, these are, pretty close. So somebody listening might just do that. And you can explain how you actually upload something and do the query, but see what happens. Get started.
Well, and it can get there completely on price, but you have to follow a specific method. Just like it can get there on writing. Like if you're trying to write a book, or if you're trying to write an article, or you're trying to write, a social post or whatever, it can get there. Is it going to get there the first time that you just put, hey, give me a bid for this? No.
But that's where you
Right?
start, right?
But that's where you start. So the way that you start, you have to come up with the idea. Actually, you don't have to come up with the idea, but you have to start and do it manually, right? Hey, ChatGPT, this is who I am. I'm trying to bid projects. My goal is this margin. This is the project scope of work. Come up with a bid for me. Ideally, what it comes up with is 80% there, but it may be 40% there to start. And instead of you taking that out of ChatGPT and fixing it or not using it, what you should do is either go fix it and put it back into Chat, or let Chat figure it out by coaching it, just like you would coach an intern. Hey, I see why you did that, but that's incorrect because of this. This material is actually this much, and this is a specialty item, and you forgot to include this. That wasn't in the scope of work or whatever, right? And keep chatting with it until it gets the right answer. And then once it gets the right answer, what you've done is you've done the manual part. Now you're stabilizing, right? So if it gets the right answer, try another one right away. Hey, let's do another scope of work following the same principles. Okay, I would grade that a 7 out of 10. Here's what you did wrong. And then go again, right? Until you get it to where it's 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, right? In terms of what you're looking for. Just like coaching somebody. And then what you do is you ask you ask AI, hey, I want you to generate this every single time. Please give me a prompt that I can use every single time with Chat, and give that so that I will get the same result every time. And it will generate the prompt for you. And then we won't get into the details of how you can do that, but simply just copy that and paste it every single time. You can go in and you can create GPTs and you can create projects, but that's a little higher level. It's not that hard. It's just, I don't want to get too much in the details of it. But if you have that prompt, now you've created a process for how we do bids. We get the scope of work, we put it into Chat with this prompt, we get our bid. Right?
That's well, you just did something right there that is what I was talking about. You've written this prompt, which is a query, which is what you write in there to get the answer you want.
It's what you search. It's what you type in the Chat.
In AI, for some reason, they call it all prompts, and prompt engineering is what you're doing. But you said, okay, write a prompt for me. I'm sitting there thinking, I got to figure out what's going on. So write a prompt for me that will get this answer. You have to let it do that.
What you have to do, and this is a really great way to do this, by the way, you can take, let's say we're trying to generate bids, right? And you have a specific way you like to do bids, and they're an Excel spreadsheet. You need to go and find bids in that same format spreadsheet, and you need to find a 10 out of 10 bid. Like, hey, I love the way that this bid was done in terms of how it was priced, how it was formatted, how it was outlined, all the details, the scope of work, And then you should go and find one that's a 5 out of 10, and maybe one that's a 7 out of 10. And then you need to upload all of them into Chat and say, hey, bid 1 is a 10 out of 10, bid 2 is a 7 out of 10, and bid 3 is a 5 out of 10. How about you define my evaluation system of these bids? What is the difference between them? Why would this one be a 10 out of 10 and this one be an 8 out of 10 and this one be a 5 out of 10? And then let it do that. And it will create a grading rubric for you on what a good bid is versus a bad bid. And it'll define what 9 out of 10 is, 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It'll do everything. And then what you do is you say, hey, what would an 11 out of 10 be? And then it will come up with the ideas to tell you what an 11 out of 10 bid would be. And maybe that is just, it's designed better, right? It's not in a Excel spreadsheet. It's in a really clean proposal format. I don't know, but just do that. And then you can generate the prompt off of that. Using this evaluation system, generate a prompt for me that will then not only grade bids, but produce bids.
Right.
And it'll give you that prompt, and then it'll get to that 10 out of 10 every time, right?
Yeah.
And then what you're doing is you're doing that I would call that doing that by hand. You're not literally doing it on a piece of paper, but you're going manually and by hand working on this. And then once you've used it a few times, what you're doing in that is you're stabilizing it. And don't expect it to get it right after 5 minutes of chatting with it, get it all right. Give it a couple weeks, give it a month of like, you're stabilizing your prompt, you're stabilizing how it generates the bid or whatever you're having it generate. It could be emails, it could be, evaluation checklists, it could be SOPs. Stabilize it. And then once you've stabilized it, that's when you can start to automate it, which gets a little bit more in the weeds of like the technical details, but that's where you can really have a lot of the heavy lifting. Like, what if you had a discovery call or a kickoff call for a new project, or maybe it's in your sales process. And let's just even say that you're in person using your phone and you're recording it using the voicemail app on your iPhone. And you're talking to the customer, you're asking them questions. It's a 30-minute discovery call. You can start your automation where all you do is you've recorded that and you upload it into ChatGPT or into your automation tool. And from there, it generates a scope of work. And from there, it generates your estimate. And from there, it generates an email with the estimate to go to the customer. And from there, it generates complete project plans for your project manager.
Quick ad break to tell you about Growth Kits. This is actually my company, and you may have seen it around, but I started Growth Kits because I kept seeing contractors struggle with the same problems over and over again. They were trying to be better organized inside of their business, but kept drowning in the day-to-day operations. So whether you need a better CRM, a hiring process that actually works, or you just want to make sense of the tech stack inside of your business, we have systems that are built specifically for contractors. You can either grab our DIY guides and implement these systems yourself, or you can hire us to work with you on it and implement it for you. No massive consulting fees, no year-long commitments or monthly retainers. Just pick what you need right now and let's get it done together. Head over to growth-kits.com to see how we can help you construct your success one system at a time. That's growth-kits.com, or just click the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
You know, we've got people listening that are pretty sophisticated at AI, and we've got people who haven't even touched it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally, to start for somebody who hasn't touched it, I mean, say, how do you start? And I can give maybe your first query once you've downloaded is, how do I use you, chat?
Yeah.
But literally, what do I do? Because people say, uploading into what? What do you mean uploading? Or now, I'm insulting some people, but there are people out there.
So a couple things. I've talked about the process that you should be using, which is by hand, then stabilize, and then eventually you'll be able to automate. That kind of gives you a vision for where you're going long-term, right? And we see how that what I just outlined could completely replace an employee at some point, right? Mm-hmm. Where you don't need an estimator, right? But the thing that you need to be thinking about is 10-80-10, which is once you are getting
80-10.
80-10,
okay,
which is 10% you at the start, 80% AI, 10% you. It's no different than when you're delegating a task to a junior employee. You don't really expect them to be 100% the first year maybe that they're working, but you want to be able to coach them through 10% of it. Okay, I'm going to let you work on that and execute. And then you're going to come back and, hey, you got this wrong. That looks good. Let's work on this next time, et cetera, right? That 10-80-10 needs to be your approach to AI in all things. If you're approaching AI with, 2% you, 98% AI, you can get to that point 100%. That's when you're automating. But for the most part, don't have that mindset, or else you're just going to get frustrated. It still requires effort and work on your part. Where would I start? The most important thing, like right now, the businesses that are going to win have data. That is where you start. The more data you have, the more valuable AI will be to you. The less data you have, the more you have to rely on AI rather than on yourself, on what you have, right? So what I mean by that, previously, all of your data needed to be really structured. What do I mean by that? Well, SOPs would be your data, right? If I gave you SOPs as an employee of mine, Martin, and it was literally one single Google Doc that had every single SOP, and there was no headers, or no, it was all body copy, normal copy, no bold, no italics, just all there. And I just gave that to you, no table of contents. How frustrated would you be?
Yeah.
Yeah,
bit.
it would suck.
Yeah.
And so you had to work at, hey, we have to have an individual Google Doc or a Notion page or whatever you were using for every single SOP, so that it was easier to find, it was easier to organize, it was easy for the junior employee to go and find what they were looking for, and then you could link to the Google Doc, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you did all of that stuff, that's really helpful because you have a lot of data in place and you're going to be able to leverage that with AI. But if you don't have all of that stuff, it's almost as if you do just have that single Google Doc, like I just talked about, that had everything without any formatting, AI is completely fine with that. You don't have to do all the sorting. You don't have to do all the organizing and formatting for AI. It can take a CSV file, a TXT file, a Google Doc. It can use a PDF, but I don't recommend using PDF format. Use a different one. And it can organize its thoughts. It just stores it all. It understands the formatting clearly, which is just crazy to think about. So what's valuable in terms of your data if you don't have SOPs? Something every listener right now can do is get off of Cox phone or Comcast phone, whatever business line you're using, AT&T, get off of it for your business. That is the number one thing you can do, and get onto a VoIP system like our sponsor, OpenPhone. And if you use the code that we'll put in the show notes or the link that we use in the show notes, you're supporting our show, but you're also, I think you get a discount as well. Get onto OpenPhone. Port your number from your business line at AT&T or Cox or whatever into OpenPhone and record every single conversation. That's the first thing you can do. Because right now, all of your knowledge, all of your data is actually just in your head. You're answering customer calls. You're calling your guys out in the field. You're talking to other subcontractors or other contractors or vendors and suppliers. That's data. And that if you can just implement that one change, you'll start collecting data. And then after a month, you can export out all of your conversations, right? And you throw it into chat and you say, hey, tell me about my business. And you'll be shocked at what it knows.
Yeah.
Hey, what are some SOPs that we could generate out of these transcripts? Holy cow, we've got 50 SOPs generated right there, right?
Yeah.
Hey, what are some testimonials from customers that are positive based upon phone calls that we've had in the last month? Boom, hey, we have 13 testimonials that we can now use for marketing. Hey, what are areas of improvement that customers have mentioned and questions they have? Oh, wow, we've got 15 blog articles of frequently asked questions from real customers with our actual answer, right? There's so much that you can do with that data, but if you don't have the data, you're starting with just yourself and AI, right? So that's the one thing that I would say you can do is go and start collecting data. That means getting onto a VoIP system for your phone. And, maybe that's not a lot of what you're doing. Maybe you're talking to guys out in the field a lot. The equivalent to that would be get off of WhatsApp and get onto Slack, right? You can also use Microsoft Teams instead of Slack. You can also use Google Chat, but use a workplace communication tool like Slack. Same exact thing happens. If you're talking in there about projects nonstop, if you're messaging back and forth and people are asking questions and you're giving advice and you're linking to other, YouTube videos of how to do something so they know how to do it out in the field, you can export all of that chat history. And it's the same principle as exporting all of your conversations from OpenPhone, right? And then if you're doing virtual meetings, like I do a lot, and you're on Google Workspace, start recording and transcribing every single call, internal, external, everything. Everything is recorded. And the same principle applies. Take that, put it in a chat, and see what you can do with it. But that's where I would start. You need to be recording everything.
Okay.
Martin, you're using Plod Note, right?
Yeah. Well, for in place, I'm using Plod. I don't even know if it's called Note. It's a device that goes on my phone, records
that's the
phone
Note.
conversations or in person.
Yep.
Yeah, you had me doing this. I have a former client, but good friend down in Dallas who's in marketing. He goes, my God, you've got more content than anybody I know. Because I've written articles.
Yeah.
I have all these coaching sessions. And go, really? What content? Anyway, so we started transcribing my not Zoom, but Google Meet sessions when I do remote
Mm-hmm.
coaching. I take that'll typically be in an hour, between 35 and 45,000 words in a transcript. I run
Yeah.
that through a little thing I wrote for Chat GPT called Soap Notes, and it looks for certain things: subjective, objective, assessment plan, the one thing that's most important, and some feedback from the last. Anyway, just it has a format that I've had to modify, but it's pretty good. I get that. I send it to my client, and I send it to me, and we both got it. I was tossing the transcripts because I didn't want them junking up my Google Drive. Well, at your behest, started taking the transcripts and putting them through what we're calling article writer. And so it writes an article on every coaching session, finds something important. 60% of them right now are not very good. But I've got getting 2 or 3, and it'd take me a week to write an article. And everyone, it also has street cred. Google knows that if you're going to blog for your website, that you have AI, and so does everybody else. You could have AI completely write articles for you, 5 a day, and put them on your website. Well, Google's not going to, they're going to go, no, we can
Yeah.
tell
No chance.
you didn't do that. Well, I've got a date, a specific event, transcript of it. I've got a coaching website. I've got this podcast website, got my book website, got my bio and a picture on every article, so that when Google comes in, they can read that and go, oh, this guy's real. This is real stuff. And it is, because I'm not beating the system. It is real. And all of a sudden, the great benefit of writing articles, which there still is, especially if they're good and useful, which was such a task, is a lot easier. And
Yeah.
you're speaking about refining things. My executive assistant, Yenny, and I think with your help, but she's using Claude to determine how I write, because a lot of things that I run through that come out of AI, I would not send them out over my signature because I'm a jerk, but an effete jerk. But I wouldn't do it. I go, that's pedestrian at best, and it doesn't make sense at worst. So I'm kind of particular about that. Well, it's getting better and better and better. Right now, I still have to do a lot of work, but I'm expecting that within some reasonable amount of time, it'll actually produce one that all I have to do is read and make sure it's true. So anyway.
Well, the main thing, and this is another, I guess, one thing, maybe you don't have a lot of conversations that you can record very easily. Start using AI as your operating system. What I mean by that is try to start your day with AI. Instead of logging into your computer or pulling up your phone and going to Safari or to Chrome, start in ChatGPT. Hey, here's what I have to do today. How can I do it? And see what happens. Search, instead of searching Google, search with AI. That's what the younger generation's doing really well, is they start with AI. They don't start in the browser. They don't start in search.
So's the
Start with
older
AI.
generation.
Yeah, and Martin's doing it too, but that's something you can start to do. There's other great things like the voice mode is incredible for just talking and processing ideas and using AI as a thought partner, and then being able to summarize everything that you were thinking about and putting it into a clear, concise format with action steps. Like, there's so many things you can do, but if you just start downloading the app, using it on your phone, using it when you log onto your computer, start with AI, and it'll become more natural. Just like to start, you weren't thinking about, you go back, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe more. You memorized every single phone number in your head. You knew everybody's landline. You knew if they had a cell phone number. I still know all of my best friends' phone numbers, right? But over time, we started using the contact book in the application in our phone. And I think we'd all agree that we have way more contacts than we can memorize. And we don't even think about memorizing someone's phone number now. And probably for the better, right? Wasted capacity on memorizing numbers that
Einstein had a quote like that. He didn't remember numbers. He said, why would I take up my mental space with something I can readily look up? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
most,
and that's exactly what it is, right? So anyways, I'm going off on a tangent there. The point is just start with AI. Just
yeah.
make that your effort to make it a habit to start with AI, and you'll be better off than most people. So I hope this has been valuable. I hope it's helpful for people. Obviously this stuff is ever changing. Next week, I tried to make it to where next week this advice wouldn't be obsolete, right? I think these are just general principles that if you want to succeed with AI, this is how you should be thinking and approaching it.
Simplest dang thing in the world is go to chat or Claude.ai and get the free one. I mean, start there. And then the first question, if you don't know what it says, ask me anything in there and type in there, how the heck can I use you? And it'll start telling you. I mean,
Yeah, it will.
but you're not sitting there listening to other people talk about it, feeling like you're left behind.
Yeah. Well, thanks for chatting, Martin.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
Yep. And useful.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you around.
Okay. Talk to you later.
You made it to the end of the episode, but before you go, if you found yourself thinking about growing your construction business while listening today, I want to share something with you. It's called our 24 Things to Hiring and Training the Perfect Executive Assistant for Your Construction Business. And it's a free guide that we've created. It's not theory, it's what we actually use to help contractors hire the perfect executive assistant. And really, we help you find ways to delegate over 50% of your current workload and get back 20 hours of your time every single week. You didn't start your construction business to just be doing admin work, to be buried in paperwork and endless admin tasks. This is the guide that shows you exactly how to find and train someone who can actually take all that weight off of your shoulders. So this is a real actionable, great PDF that has templates and processes. It's really, really great. And I want you to check it out, even just to get your feedback and how we can make it even more valuable. But I know that you're gonna love it. The link is in the show notes. Please download it. We'd love to see how much of an impact it makes on you and your business. Thanks for listening to the full episode. Check out the guide. It's free. No reason to hesitate. No reason to wait. Download it now. And before you go, I just want to ask for your gracious subscription to our podcast. So if you have 2 seconds, it means the world to us. Just subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or if you'd like our weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox whenever we release an episode, please subscribe in the show notes. Every week, we're talking about real strategies on how you can grow and build a profitable construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, and more money. Click subscribe wherever you listen to the show, and thank you again for checking out the Cashflow Contractor. See you on the next episode.